having us today. And I guess I can kick it off a little bit, giving a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about today. The main point here is exploration in Mexico. And as everyone here is aware, Mexico has the perfect storm, as it were, of geologic events that have created some fantastic mineral deposits. And while there's been exploration and exploitation, as it were, the resources for a long period of time, there's still some great things out there. And the point of this discussion today is, what are the factors that lead mining companies to choose an asset to explore its potential in Mexico, and what can companies do to increase their chances of having a successful exploration program here in Mexico? Michael, would you like to start off?
Sure. Thank you, Lauren, and wanted to say thank you to the organizers here as well too. So, of course, we're the guests at Vizsla. We're the guests of the country of Mexico, the state of Sinaloa, and then of course the communities that we work in. So I'd like to say thank you to those people as well. And I'm also happy to see that two of our suppliers here, of course, Vizsla Drilling and Mazda Drilling, are on the panel. So thank you to both companies for helping us with our drill program at the Panuco project. So, I think thinking about Mexico, and in my capacity as CEO of Vizsla, as well as managing director of Inventa Capital, with Inventa Capital, we've raised over $200 million for a number of public companies over the last year or so. We're constantly looking at jurisdictions and places to invest, across the world. But Mexico remains our focus, our primary place to work, our favorite place to work. And the reason for that is, Lauren, is similar to what you discussed earlier, is that, although there has been a lot of major success in exploration and has 500-year history of mining, there's still the opportunity to make very large, significant discoveries on a world scale in multitudes of metals. So, for us, that's been very important. And when we look at things like secure title, skilled workforce, supply chain, it's quite easy to get drillers and the people that you need to put together a significant exploration campaign. Mexico ranks very high on the list because of those reasons. And then for us, looking at a specific asset, it's all about the size of the prize, the cost of the test, and then the chance of success. And so the size of the prize is certainly there in Mexico, with these very large silver districts and large copper projects in Sonora. And then, it's not that expensive to do the test, to do the drilling. And then the chance of success is quite high, I believe, as well. So those are things that attract us to assets. And then, we utilize the experts in country as well, too.
Fantastic. And thank you for giving us that overview and putting it, encapsulating it in such a nice way. Ben Weeding from Oryx, I was wondering what you think on this.
Yes, it's good to talk with you today. We last spoke in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. It was at the Silver Symposium, and that's where a lot of the investment community gets involved at a conference like that. Lauren and I had a chance to chat about Mexico and Mexico's geology. I certainly agree with Michael that there is a cornucopia of mineral wealth in Mexico. It's not always easy to find the best locations, but it certainly is a place that is well endowed for mineralization. If you were just taking a look at a place like the Mesa Central, or the Central Silver Belt of Mexico on the east side of the Sierra Madre Occidental, that area, that Mesa Central, has about 10 to 15% outcrop, and almost all of the discoveries that were made on the outcrop areas. But there's a lot of territory there that's about 85% that is covered by later geological formations or by quaternary alluvium that leads you to think that there might be more opportunities for major discoveries in Mexico. And so it's a beautiful place to be working that way. I'd certainly thank a lot of the communities that we work in. Community involvement is key to any of our projects, getting involved with the local ejidos and making sure that their communities are healthy and safe at this time of COVID, which is some difficulty that many companies have had operating. It's put more of a dampener on the progress rate rather than stopping progress in Mexico, that it just takes longer to get things done. Maybe there are fewer people working at government agencies to sign off on your permits, a variety of things like that happen. But overall, Mexico is a tremendous place to choose a project that you can move forward and to know that it makes an impact on your company and on the communities and the country as well.
Fantastic and well put. I was wondering what factors that you think, from your perspective with the drilling company, is a reason for people to be moving into Mexico with exploration.
Well, yes, in relation to exploration drilling companies, I can say that one of the most relevant factors for mining companies to choose a drilling company is the level of knowledge they have or we have in the methods used to drill. In addition, that a high quality service is provided where our customers can feel comfortable and they trust our health, safety, and environmental process. So that's why we focus on giving our best with our quality operations and with great precision with our well-trained staff. Also giving a comprehensive service focused on being sustainable and managing competent prices within the industry.
Yeah, I think that given the long history Mexico's had of resource development and exploration, there's an incredible depth to the knowledge and expertise that's out there. Diana Lagarda, what is your take from Isla?
Me da mucho gusto estar participando en este foro, un gusto estar aquí con todos ustedes y mi opinión desde el punto de vista de la empresa Bilsa Drilling sería que pues es muy importante primero que nada ver los precios de los metales, en cómo se están cotizando en el mercado y a partir de ahí ubicar los yacimientos en el país, ya que en el país encontramos una gran cantidad de lugares con un potencial bastante bueno y ya desde el punto de vista de la empresa pues sería trabajar apoyando a las comunidades. Esa es una de las cosas en lo que más nos hemos enfocado, apoyando a las comunidades en donde trabajamos, cuidando al medio ambiente y desarrollando tecnologías para reutilizar el agua a la hora de nuestros procesos y mejorando día a día los equipos de barrenación para desarrollar cada vez mejor nuestro trabajo.
Fantastic. And to follow up with that, moving on to the next question, what technologies, methods are improving companies' abilities to explore difficult assets, and what are their advantages?
Ok, con mucho gusto. Una de las tecnologías que se está enfocando más que nada la empresa sería empezar a reducir a reducir o más bien descarbonizar nuestros procesos, implementando equipos que sean totalmente eléctricos o que sean híbridos. Y además de eso, como lo comentaba hace un momento, estar trabajando en los procesos que estamos implementando en la recirculación del agua para a la hora de trabajar, reutilizarla lo más posible para estarla cuidando cada vez más. Esa sería una de nuestras actividades. Y otra es a la hora de utilizar productos como son los fluidos de perforación, los aditivos que sean 100% biodegradables. Es otra de las cosas que implementamos. Y una cosa que no se puede dejar de mencionar es la participación del personal especializado y capacitado constantemente en las nuevas tecnologías que están surgiendo día con día. Esa sería mi opinión.
Fantastic. I think those are important points, especially from the driller's perspective. Although I am curious, Michael, from the exploration side of things, where do you think the technology and methodology is that changing? How does that affect?
Well, I'm not a technical expert. Ben will have a lot more insight than I do on kind of the technical side of exploration there. But from my perspective, one of the things that we're doing, I suppose, a little bit different at the Panuco district is, we're using electromagnetic airborne surveys to find, massive sulfide phases of mineralization in our district, which, isn't something that's extremely common. And so, that's an example of us using technology there to explore. But when I was considering this question, what I actually thought about was the way that we communicate. And some of the things that we're doing, trying to communicate between our head office and the geologists and the management that are maybe not always at the project. We're piloting some programs that we have a special made app that allows us to kind of view cores coming and stay more kind of engaged with the project from afar. So when I think about that, I sometimes think it's it's just as simple as how can we communicate a little bit better. And of course, over the last 2 years here with the pandemic, communication when people haven't necessarily been able to be close together has been very important. So
yeah, the role of being able to have this instant connection and feedback with people from different perspectives and to integrate that together, I think is going to be really important moving forward. I think that's a great point, that technology goes beyond the physical, drill rigs and geophysics, but it's also the changes in the way that we communicate.
Yeah.
So Magda, with the Maza drilling, where do you see technology and methodology changes affecting exploration?
Okay, we as a drilling company, we can mention a few items like the Devico and Devicore. Those are some devices that provide certainty of the drilling direction. Also the automatic manipulators for safety, efficiency to maximize times of production. And with this, we reduce the risks to our collaborators, and also the use of man-portable equipments to reach places that are difficult to access or without roads. So these 3 examples helps a lot.
Fantastic. And we've got a little bit of time before the next question. So perhaps I could ask Ben, what is your thoughts on this aspect?
Well, as you can see from the background photograph in my shot, drilling companies are very important. Las empresas de perforación es muy importante para nosotros en proyectos en Mexico. So we really need good quality drilling companies, and we're fortunate to have that in Mexico. The other part that I'm seeing now is more what Michael mentioned with some geophysics, but there's a system called LiDAR. It's a geophysical tool that allows you to do a very, very detailed contouring of the surface of the ground, and also in areas where you have organics, it can penetrate through the organic cover and give you information to what they call a bedrock map down through loose overburden and or organics, and give you structural information that we never had before at the level that we can get these days. And that to me is one of the the breakthroughs that's happening over the past couple of years, as well as communications that was already mentioned, and in the field equipment such as your handheld X-ray fluorescence mass spectrometers or your PIMA type units that can analyze clay mineralization, allowing that to come back quickly to the decision makers and the team as you're studying the data. Some of the data is becoming much more precise. And I'm looking very much to getting back into the field and being able to go back out on the drill rigs and seeing it in real time as opposed to on a Zoom meeting.
Yes, right. It's going to be really interesting to finally be able to go back out and see things physically. I recently was in Chihuahua and looking at drill core again. It's always a great feeling to be able to see things physically, but Michael made a great point regarding the fact that at least now we can communicate and connect together, even if we're not able to be there in person. Sort of a change of pace, as it were, in addition to tax reductions, let's say, what other incentives are companies looking for in a jurisdiction when choosing where to explore or finding a project to explore? We're going to move on to we'll go back to you, Ben.
Yeah, if I was looking at it, everybody wants lower taxes, so that's kind of a given for any company. But you pay the taxes and you hope that they are distributed and spent wisely, and that the local communities get their share of the benefits from the taxes. We also, as companies, as Michael will support, have our community involvements. And to have that recognized, that we have our social responsibilities in our communities to help out where we see there is a need. And that's beyond a tax issue. If there was one policy thing that I could put forward for changes, it would be sometimes in bringing equipment into the country for a temporary use. A geophysical company, Quantec, has a really, really good airborne system that they only have a few of these units worldwide at the level that provides that kind of service. They wanted to bring it into Mexico, but the Mexican customs wanted them to pay import taxes as though they were importing this equipment into Mexico, when really it was only supposed to be coming in for a 1 month survey, and then it was going out and it was going to end up in another country for another survey. They're not importing that equipment yet because it's so specialized. In this case, the import customs was prohibitive as a cost on top of the actual survey. So that's an example of fine-tuning some aspects of the projects. The other one I would put forward might be under mineral concessions. Mineral concessions in many areas have been stalled. Is that the right term? Maybe it's because of bureaucrats maybe not having as many people in their offices. You're trying to file for a new mineral concession where you see a mineral trend going into an area, and it's not happening very quickly at all in some cases. Perhaps some of the other companies have come across that as well.
Michael, where does Vizsla kind of fit within this? What aspects do you think can encourage people to go into specific jurisdictions, whether it's to entice them or to reduce risk?
Yeah, well, we definitely experience those items, Ben, that you mentioned as well too, with bringing, well, in our case, electromagnetic equipment and things like that. So it is, it's always a bit of a tricky situation at the border. So I can echo that. And the other thing, I guess the word incentives maybe isn't exactly the word that I would describe it. But what I found, in Sinaloa at least, is that the alignment with the community and kind of being welcomed by the community has been a great, I don't know if it's an incentive, maybe a side effect of what we're expecting. And so, for places that are, receiving a large amount of, let's say investment into the community through mineral exploration and services and things like that, having a great alignment with the communities there, having a great relationship with the communities has been a very positive outcome. And it's funny because that's something that maybe not everybody would consider when they think about Sinaloa, but in our experience in Sinaloa has been very positive, and we're very, very happy to be there. So we have opportunities to, that's my Vizsla hat, taking off my Vizsla hat and putting on the Inventa hat on, where we look to acquire, assets, around the world as well. Some areas of Mexico are maybe less exciting for us to go to, and sometimes that has to do with kind of maybe recent experiences by other communities, in other areas that other companies have had. So, for us, we're really kind of incentivized by positive experiences in jurisdictions where either we've worked or others have worked, and so that kind of creates I suppose a bit of a forward momentum on that, or self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, I agree that the community aspect is so important, and whether you're in an area that has a strong history of mining, or there's been a sort of building upon once again that 500 years of history of mining in Mexico, and there's a community aspect to it. Recently spending time in Chihuahua City and in the Santa Eulalia district, being able to see these communities that in a large part developed around a mine, and the relationship between how the mines interact with the community as well. I think that is an important factor, and something that kind of relates to that in a way is how you get things to these places, because a lot of times exploration projects aren't in the most convenient location that you could imagine. And one of the questions that comes up is, what are the new supply chain trends for mineral exploration, and how can companies ensure that they're able to be efficient and to reduce costs and to make it possible to explore in these places that, since exploration tends to happen in especially now that what you could describe as the easy pickings, the more accessible locations have gone into production, and we're kind of thinking more outside the box. How do you think that those can go together? Veridania, could we start with you regarding supply chain and getting drill rigs and such like that to locations for exploration?
Sí, aquí es muy importante ver que es el momento para diversificar los proveedores. A esto me refiero de empezar a cada vez más a incluir a los proveedores locales en las comunidades, para que apoyen en los suministros que se necesitan. Igual, no anclarnos con un proveedor tradicional que se tiene, y así ir involucrando más a las comunidades de esta manera, que apoyen en los suministros. Y de esta manera ir capacitando también a las personas locales para que puedan apoyar en este trabajo.
I'm starting to sense a theme with a lot of these discussions as we're coming back around, that community is really important in the exploration field, whether it's through the technology or making it possible for supply chains, whether it's drillers or explorers. The community is really a point that we keep coming back to again and again. Magda, what is your opinion on supply chain?
Yeah, regarding the new supply chain trends for the exploration, circular economy or green mining, where resources are efficient. For example, we recirculate water for greater use of it. So we use also degradable bioadditives, and we always promote respect for communities. That way we help create sustainable communities.
The other aspect that I guess gets related to supply chain also comes down to being able to transport and move around things like drill rigs. Are you seeing with the transition to electric and hybrid drilling, as you were talking about earlier, that that's also increasing your mobility?
Well, we do use a lot the man-portable equipments reaching places that are difficult, but the diesel is kind of difficult to get the power for the kind of heavy equipment we use, but we are definitely trying to find out some new things or green supplies, but we also have to give a good result. So unfortunately, the use of diesel is something we're still using.
Yeah, there's a give and take in terms of where we can implement the more green energies and where sometimes we have to go back to the more the diesel aspect. But I think one of the good points that Bradania was making regarding having the community being a part of sourcing material and creating that as a sort of a touchstone or a nexus for moving forward with supply chain issues, and fixing that in a more holistic aspect is really important. So thank you for that comment. How do you think that explorers can reduce the risks relative to supply chain, relative to exploration, to make operations more predictable, whether that's through assay work or drilling work, and from that increased trust with investors?
You know, I might sound like I only have one answer to these things, but you know, my answer, of course, is communication, because if you want trust in the market and with investors, you need to build a track record of doing what you said you would do, and you know, meeting kind of deadlines and things like that. And so, you know, again, when I think about that, you know, if you're expecting to, you know, have you know, reports, you know, a resource calculation or a PEA or anything like that, then, you know, understanding the, you know, very clearly understanding the timelines and the lead times on the supply chain is very important to that. So, you know, for me, you know, we've had the pleasure of working, you know, of course, with Mazajoin, but I, you know, I've worked with Bilsa and the Lagarda family, you know, and other companies in Mexico as well too. And you know, the you know, ability for them to communicate clearly on you know, timelines and you know, achieving goals with drilling and things like that has always been you know, a huge accomplishment on that front. So having that ability to kind of foresee what the you know, what the timelines are going to be like with supply chain, communicating that clearly, and then having a track record of, you know, long-term track record of achieving those things, you know, I think it's all based on that foundation of communication.
Yeah, I think we're learning from this discussion that communication and community seem to be the touchstones for success for exploration in Mexico. Yeah. Ben, what is, you know, if I can have you go back onto that, what is your opinion regarding that?
Yeah, it's the community is certainly our top of the list, but I think also from the environmental viewpoint, and you mentioned using electrical equipment, underground mining equipment is shifting in that direction worldwide. We haven't seen it as much in Mexico, but that's a phase that will happen in Mexico too, that when you have old underground mining access, to be able to go in there and study it and to expand upon it, that electrical equipment will become the way to go into the future, be more environmentally sound. One of the things that we do from an explorer's viewpoint in our local communities is we have a reforestation projects tied into the schools. And if you look at schools in many places in Mexico, the schoolyard is barren and it's a dirt place where the kids certainly play. But what we did was we brought in a biologist who studied the area of that region and chose the tree species that were most suitable for the least amount of maintenance that could be planted in the schoolyards. Then bringing the children there, where the middle school children dug the holes and the littler children planted the seedlings or the small trees and did the watering, and they gained a sense of ownership, a sense of belonging, that those trees were our trees. And so when they're playing in the schoolyards, they're going to be protecting those trees at the same time. And that, from an environmental viewpoint, is good for the environment, because planting trees is a very significant part of our whole climate change concepts and stability of soils in areas, particularly if rain patterns start to change. So there's some overlap. I know there are several subjects in there at the same time, but it does show that mining companies can have an impact on something as big as climate change and something as small as a first-year student gaining a sense of belonging to his schoolyard or her schoolyard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, as we're coming towards the end of the initial part, because I think we'll be moving into a question and answer segment here in a second. It seems that the big aspects that we've touched on during this panel is that, you know, communications and community are needed to make or to take full advantage of the technologies and changes that we're seeing in exploration in Mexico. And as the technology becomes more advanced, as we bring these different elements in, it's important to bring everyone along with, or bring everyone in with us as well. Veredania, did you have any final remarks that you wanted to make? And we'll touch with everyone here, just you know, what you think is the important takeaway from this afternoon's discussion.
Un comentario, algo que mencionaba Megan de la importancia, Magda, que mencionaba ella el uso de equipos portátiles, que gracias pues a los avances que se tienen, y estos equipos portátiles benefician mucho en lugares que son con difícil acceso, y aparte del difícil acceso, que la huella ambiental que dejan es mínima, y es muy bueno utilizarlos.
Yeah, I agree that you know, as things are becoming portable and smaller and more efficient, and, you know, there's this beautiful connection too, and that as we get more electric motors operating, you know, electric motors need more copper and silver, and these elements that we're looking for get incorporated more into these greener energies and these lower carbon related tech. And so there's this great use of symbiosis, as it were, between the technology and where things are going and how we can better use it. The other aspect that, just to touch back on, that Magda was making regarding the use and the recycling of water and being able to reuse that. And, you know, as we know, Mexico is not exactly the most abundant with water place, as it were. And if you could touch more on what you are doing with reducing water waste and you know, and also making sure that what is coming off is not problematic.
Por ejemplo, una de las cosas que se está haciendo es pues aprovecharla y reutilizarla. en el proceso, trabajar con el misma cantidad de agua una y otra vez, reduciendo así para no tener que estar extrayendo cada vez más. Entonces, ahorita en eso se está trabajando en seguir mejorando ese sistema de reciclado, utilizando, por ejemplo, la decantación y estar cada vez más mejorando ese sistema.
Fantastic. Either Michael or Ben, would you like to sort of, I don't know which one of you guys want to go first, regarding, you know, how you're seeing changes? I guess Ben's been around for a little bit longer, so perhaps he's the better one to ask, but you know, changes that you've seen in terms of how drilling and exploration has come over time to reach to where we are today.
I would say that primarily in the northern part of Mexico, that the number of drilling companies that are of high quality have continued to improve. The access to analytical laboratories for mining companies had some long wait times this year, once again, for whatever reasons of personnel, perhaps, trained people, so that you had to wait for your assays for a considerable length of time before you could move on to the next decision based on them. And there was one cyber threat to a laboratory, I won't mention which laboratory, where all your data and your forms were up in the cloud computing, and worldwide, apparently that company's cloud computing system was hacked. So there are security issues with technology. We always look at technology and see some benefits into the future, but there are also some issues we need to consider very carefully. It wasn't a Mexico-specific issue, but it was the Mexican subsidiaries of that analytical company that couldn't get their results back to their clients. So there are things that do happen. I would say that supporting the local communities to provide as much support materials as you can is important too, such as building welded core shack frames for storing your drill core. Rather than bringing those into a community, can you, for a reasonable price, maybe a small markup, to get a local company that's doing welding to do that job for you, and it keeps more of the wealth and the resources in the local area. That's something that companies can do further as we go further into the future. What do you think, Michael?
Well, I would agree with you entirely there. And, you know, what I would say, or maybe not even say, but just add to what you're saying there as well, is that, I think, how things have changed is that you need more alignment, more ESG approach to each, level of what you're doing. Whereas in the past, now I kind of reject the idea that this is a new thing for mining. ESG is a new thing for mining. Mining's been doing ESG, forever. I mean, they've had to, because there's always, there's always been a community on top of a mine, and certainly in Mexico, it's where the old districts were, where, we're built cities around them. So, for Canadian companies coming into Mexico, I think that for the most part, they were pioneers in a lot of, and that's not true for everyone. Of course, there's outliers. But, the idea that, ESG is brand new to the mining space, I think is somewhat incorrect. But, what I do see is that there's more of a draw to it. So it's more important to, to highlight the work that a company is doing in the community, or how they're being green, how they're managing water, how they're managing waterways and river systems. This is something that, has become more important. So I think that might be a trend. That's something that's changing, is not so much engaging communities and alignment with communities. It's more so how that's reported. And I think, at some point, it's going to be just as important in the future there'll be a kind of your ESG and carbon balance sheet, and there'll be your financial balance sheet reporting. So I think that's a trend that's ongoing.
So just to wrap up this main portion, if everyone would like to take a quick moment to sort of give your summary of what you think is the most important aspects for exploration in moving forward and to be taking into consideration as we continue to hopefully find some more deposits in Mexico.
In one word, I would just put it as access. Land access would be number one.
Well, I don't want to get off brand, so I'm just going to say communication.
Magda?
Yes, well, I think also communication is so different than 20 years ago. For example, we have wireless antennas for the internet, and we are communicating with all Mexico areas. The companies are also so different than 20 years ago. They're more responsible, and we're also taking more care of our employees, taking care of them, and also the environmental issues.
Yeah, I think there's a holistic aspect and outlook that's really become an important aspect and something that has been a stronger focus. I think if you went back 20 years and we had this same panel discussion, I don't know if communication would have been one of the top topics of conversation and one of the most important considerations in exploration, but I wasn't around for that, so I can't say. Veridania, oh, sorry, my chair arm just gave out. What do you think the most important aspect that our big takeaway from today should be?
Pues yo creo que también lo que decían, estoy de acuerdo con mis compañeros panelistas, lo que mencionaban, y también regresando al tema de las relaciones comunitarias, eso es muy importante, y también el tema verde que mencionábamos. Esos serían otras cosas que son importantes.
Fantastic. Well, I think the conclusion from today's panel has been that, using technologies, whether it's the green technology, the different aspects and ways we can bring in new ideas to explore in this country that has this depth, both geologically and on a human aspect of mining and minerals. And that communicating about that, whether that's with each other, within our companies, and overall with the community as well, is important. I know there were some questions and answers that were coming up, and if we could get those and we can move into that aspect as well, that would be great.
Right. Yes, indeed, Lauren. We do have our first question from the audience. It's from Doug Kevy from Defiant Silver. He's asking for all the panelists and you, do you have any advice for young entrepreneurs in using accessible and available resources to help build their businesses, particularly the young Mexican entrepreneur?
Who would you like to handle this one, Lauren?
Oh, I think I was going to say, Michael,
I mean, all of you can answer it.
We should have everyone answer.
You can raise your hand. Yeah.
It's from Doug Cavey, and Doug is a friend and a talented fellow who comes from a mining background as well. As his father's a geologist as well. So yeah, it is important to give young geologists and mining engineers and chemists and the various talent in Mexico as well as outside the international people who are working an opportunity to participate making sure that they get educational opportunities to improve their skills. And we also feel that they should also benefit from the companies, if possible, to arrange for stock options for a company that's doing a private placement, or they're launching a new company, and a geologist in Mexico is being a very key part of that advance of the company, to make sure that the success of the company becomes the success of the young entrepreneurs and the young technical and professional people as well.
Totally agree with that. And you know, one of the things in our company is we like to give you know, each of the geologists exposure to the share price through options. And you know, the pushback sometimes that I've had about that in Mexico is, you know, the comment that, you know, it's not part of the normal compensation, so it's, you know, it's not expected or anything like that. And so, but you know, from my point of view, it's you know, that alignment with the, you know, the company in Canada, and then the people on the ground is important. And then, you know, perhaps there's a geologist there that, because of that, becomes very interested in the capital markets and wants to kind of be a part of what, you know, we're doing in the Canadian office. So I think, you know, my message would be that if there's any younger geologist or you know, Mexican person working for a Canadian company that's involved in, you know, on the commercial side in a public exchange or something like that, I bet you'd find if you reached out to the management, that they'd be very excited to foster any type of interest in the entrepreneurial side of the business, because there's a shortage in good projects. There's a shortage in all metals as well. But the biggest shortage we have, of course, is is good people and people in the industry as a whole. So, you know, we're very excited if you know, part of our team, you know, we're interested in getting involved in you know, the capital market side or the management side or any other side. You know, we as a company would you know, would foster that. So.
Yeah, I will suggest to encourage the use of local suppliers to strengthen the local economy and to help create sustainable communities. Also, we're doing something, the cross training. That way, the operators are trained to be supervisors, and the helping people are being trained to be operators. And this way, we help our communities.
Amazing. We do have more questions from the audience. The second question would be, what do you see, for any panelist who wants to answer, what do you see as the key to ensuring that an exploration project eventually becomes a producing mine?
That's a good one-word answer, Michael, but it's strangely true that it requires thousands of prospects to become a deposit discovery. And it requires hundreds of deposit discoveries to have the right timing of economics, the right timing social, and the supply chain. You can make a beautiful discovery, but if it's at a time when metal prices have fallen, then the financial backing may disappear and it just sits there. But each prospect, not every prospect will become a deposit, and not every deposit discovery will become a mine. But the more you have evaluated, the more discoveries you make of ore deposits, the more likely it is that you'll have one that will turn into a profitable mine for the company and the community. So, and that's a long answer to Michael's luck. So.
Okay, we can move on to the next question, I think. What are the most important lessons to your company, any of your companies, has learned during exploration campaigns?
Michael, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, you know, from my point of view, and again, I'm not a geologist, I'm not technical, but one of the biggest things has been just giving the smart people, the technical people, you know, creativity, time to think about what they're doing, you know, freedom to make mistakes, because you know, as we just talked about, it's luck, it's difficult, and it takes a lot of you know, thinking and a lot of consideration to you know, to be successful in exploration. So you know, the lesson that I've learned is, you know, you need to make time for, ability to kind of process the information that's coming and think about things in an abstract way.
That's well put, Michael. On a more practical geology viewpoint, as I'm a geologist, is shake out your boots in the morning. Because in Durango, there's a lot of scorpions. And the scorpions, Las Alacranes is the name of the sports team in Durango city, Las Alacranes. And they can surprise you in the morning if you haven't shaken them out of your boots.
Yeah.
There's many factors, I think, is what it comes down to, whether it's scorpions in your boots or making sure that you've got the ability to make mistakes, but hopefully the mistake you make is not putting your foot onto a scorpion in your boot.
Very true.
Yeah. What are some of the latest technological trends that your companies have joined, and what have been the results?
Yeah, we've been implementing the wireless antennas to stay in contact with our employees that are far away. So we have reached to them. The devices as the Devico and the Devicore that give us a certainty of the drilling directions. We also have the automatic manipulators, helps a lot and reduce the risk to our collaborators. And also we've been implementing the solar panels for our, not in the machines, the drilling machines, but in the places where our supervisors are, so they have access to electricity and on a green way.
No, the solar panels definitely help with having access to and being able to use those communication devices that you were talking about. And it's a double bonus that you also then have the green aspect there. Veredania, do you want to take this now?
Al igual que Magda, también es el uso de paneles solares y también seguir perfeccionando la máquina portátil para acceder a sitios más complicados y para evitar dejar una huella del paso a la hora de trabajar en áreas difíciles.
That's very important. Michael, do you want to take this next?
Well, from us, it just goes back to that electromagnetic survey that we're doing. I think is probably the best example of that, and so that's something that we're looking forward to doing shortly here and having the results. We've done a sample program of that around our earlier discoveries and looking forward to do the entire district and also incorporating the potential for other types of airborne surveys or things like that.
No, exactly. And that pairs with, I believe, Ben, you were earlier talking about the LiDAR-like surveys that go in tandem with this, correct?
Yes, that's true. And to go with the deep penetration of geophysical surveys is becoming more applicable as well. Some of the systems, where they're using magnetotellurics to accompany the induced polarization electromagnetic surveys. So there are a variety of different methods that you can do at the same time and see how the results, whether you've got a conductivity or resistivity, depending on the mineralogy that you've got, and an understanding of how to deal with that data, because there's so much data comes in that computer technology has certainly advanced as well.
Yeah, I think, just to bring everything together, it seems like the big aspect, and this is something that I think has always been the case with exploration, that you have all these different factors that have to come together and work together in harmony, as it were. You have to have the geology, you have to have the rocks, you have to have the deposit, you have the technology to find these things, but you also have to have the people in the community that can implement and supply and put everything together so that, that exploration project could potentially become a mine that is a long-term investment and, beneficial to the community as well. So thank you very much for the Mexico Mining Forum for having us and putting this forum together, and thanks to the panelists as well. It's been really great getting to talk to everyone.
Muchas gracias en todo.
Yeah, thank you for moderating, Lauren. It was a great panel. Appreciate that. Thank you to the Mexican Mining Forum too.